This interview was attempted to be concealed. It was deleted. It was denied. But the words of Dr. Moody still surfaced. Because there are truths that cannot be silenced. The truth always finds a way to those who are ready to listen, those who do not turn away and do not close their eyes. In the history of humanity, there are subjects even the greatest minds feared. And among these subjects, death is the most mysterious, the most frightening for many. What comes next? What awaits us? Is there a boundary to existence? But there are also those who did not stop before prohibitions, who dared to seek answers where others remained silent. One of these brave souls is Dr. Raymond Moody. A renowned researcher of the near-death phenomenon, author of the legendary book Life After Life, which caused a true revolution in the worldview of millions of people around the world. For decades, Dr. Moody listened to the testimonies of those who had been to the other side of death. His book sold in millions of copies, and each new story lifted the veil over what is usually hidden from human eyes. People of different nationalities, cultures, and beliefs described astonishingly similar experiences. These were not just isolated, random stories. This was a pattern, a scenario that repeated again and again. But there was one interview that he gave in a small circle at the beginning of the 2000s. It never officially came to light. Its recordings were attempted to be erased. Its content was denied and called fiction. But those who were present at that meeting remembered everything down to the smallest details. Because those words could not be forgotten. It was forbidden. The reasons were various, both official and unofficial. Some said, "Science is not ready." Others whispered, "This information could change the worldview of the masses and shake the belief in what we know about death. It is too dangerous." But we gained access to these materials. We were not afraid. And today you will hear what they wanted to hide. That which can change your understanding of life and death. "Dr. Moody," the journalist began, his voice trembling slightly, "tell us honestly, what awaits a person after death?" Moody paused. His gaze was neither challenging nor fearful. It was the look of a person who had seen too much to simply answer such questions, the look of someone who knows the truth but hesitates, wondering if the world is ready for it. "What I am going to say," he began, "contradicts official science. But this is not fiction. This is not a fabricated story for comfort or sensation. This is what I have heard from hundreds, thousands of people who have returned from death. They have gone through what most people cannot even imagine." "Testimonies?" the journalist asked again. "Not just testimonies," Moody replied. "It is a pattern, a scenario that repeats again and again. People from different cultures, different religions, different beliefs, even atheists, they all describe the same thing. Light, a tunnel, beings that radiate love, peace, and warmth. A review of the entire life, like a short but profound film. But there is something more, something that is not commonly discussed, even among those who believe in life after death." "What exactly is being hidden, Doctor?" The journalist leaned forward, as if afraid, but at the same time unable to resist asking the next question. "A decision," Moody said quietly. "After reviewing their life, the soul must make a choice, and this choice is not always as religions imagine it. The choice to remain in that world," the journalist clarified, "partly, but the main thing is the choice of the soul's path of development. In some cases, the soul does not want to return. It sees that Earth is a school, difficult but very important, and there beyond is home. There is peace. There is a love that is difficult to describe in human words." It was a moment when the camera almost fell. The operator involuntarily moved the lens closer. The room became so quiet that only the distant hum of the air conditioner could be heard. Everyone felt this was not just an answer, a veil was being lifted. And here begins what even those who believe in life after death keep silent about, Moody added, truths that do not fit into either theology or official science. For example, the journalist's voice was almost a whisper. Some souls do not return because their experience on earth has ended, but others choose to return not for themselves. They become guides for others. They choose to become what we call guardian angels. The journalist remained silent. This was beyond what he had thought to discuss in the interview. His worldview was trembling. But there are also those who do not see the light, Moody said quietly. There are stories of those who found themselves in darkness, in hopeless darkness. Their souls could not or did not want to accept the love that was offered to them. You mean hell? Dr. Moody shook his head. Not in the sense it is usually imagined. It is not a place of punishment. It is a state, a soul that lives in hatred, in fear, in attachment to earthly things, creates a prison for itself. It chooses to remain in that darkness. And those who returned, were they able to describe this? Some. But they rarely speak about it publicly. They are ridiculed. Their stories evoke fear in people, and fear is the greatest obstacle to understanding the truth. Doctor, the journalist could barely contain his emotions. If everything is as you say, then why do most people who nearly died remember nothing? Why don't they recall the light, the tunnel, the meeting with loved ones? The question hung in the air like a lightning strike. Ordinary listeners often do not dare to ask this, but the journalist, who had already heard so much, could not help but find out. A very good question, Moody replied, and a very dangerous one. Dangerous? The journalist leaned forward again. It seemed that the room had become smaller, the walls closer, the air heavier. Because the truth can shake the very foundation of what we consider reality. The doctor leaned slightly forward. His gaze became deep and his voice low and firm. For a moment, it seemed that his eyes darkened with the seriousness of the topic. Most souls, after returning, receive a memory block, he continued. Someone erases the memory. The journalist raised his eyebrows in surprise. Not literally. It is not an external force, like in the movies. It is protection, natural or established by the higher laws of the universe. A person in the body is not ready to remember everything. They would not be able to live a normal life. Their mind could not withstand the fullness of knowledge and memories. Why? The journalist almost whispered. Imagine, Moody began calmly. You know that this life is only a stage. You remember absolute love, fearlessness, eternity. You know that death is not the end. Then what sense would there be in suffering, working, struggling? What would be the point of going through difficulties? Humanity would stop developing. It would stop learning. And the lessons of this world are extremely important for the growth of the soul. They shape us. They temper us. This answer caused many in the room to change the expressions on their faces. Several of those present, who had previously sat calmly, now lowered their eyes. Someone nodded slightly. Some who were present during the recording later admitted, "At that moment I first wondered if my whole life was just a brief journey before something much greater." But there are people, Moody continued, who remember, very few. They come into this world with a mission. They consciously agreed to remember fragments of the death experience to help others. But that was not all. There is one more truth I must tell, Moody continued, what I heard from dozens of people who experienced clinical death, something that repeated again and again, even though these people did not know each other. "What?" the journalist whispered. Dr. Moody looked carefully, as if searching the journalist's gaze for readiness to hear the truth. "Souls do not come into this world by chance. Many were born precisely in this period to be witnesses and participants of this transformation. Not everyone remembers it. Most have forgotten. But their mission remains. Your soul, too," he looked at the journalist, "chose to be here right now. No one came at this time without a reason." The journalist lowered his eyes. His voice disappeared for a moment. The doctor's words struck straight into the heart. They were not theory. They sounded like a reminder of something that had long been dormant in every soul. There was silence in the room. The camera continued recording. But now this was no longer just an interview. This was a confession and a prophecy. "And there is more," Moody added after a pause. "Something few people ask about. What happens to those who are lost in darkness?" The journalist gathered his courage and asked, "You mentioned that some souls remain in darkness. Is there hope for them?" Moody looked carefully. "Yes, there is always hope. Even for those who have become lost in their own darkness. No one is completely abandoned. The door is open for anyone who wishes to find the path to the light." "But how?" The journalist's voice trembled. "Through awakening. Even in the deepest darkness, a soul can remember that it is light. This is not easy. It requires strength of will, but there are those who help them remember. We call them guides." "Guides?" "Yes. Some souls who have reached a high level of development return to the darkness not to punish or judge others. They become beams of light for those who have forgotten their divine origin. They are angels among people." The journalist closed his eyes, reflecting on what he had heard. "Are you saying that even those who have done much evil can be saved?" "If they want to. But that is the key. The choice always remains with the soul. Higher forces do not impose salvation. This is the path of freedom. No soul is forced to go to the light, but each is given the opportunity." At that moment, a phone rang in the room. But no one paid attention. It seemed that reality itself had frozen, making space for a conversation about the most important matters. "There is one more thing," Moody added, "that many people do not understand. They feel an inner longing, loneliness, fear of death. They think it is weakness, but in reality this pain is the calling of their soul, a call to remember who they really are." "So suffering is a signal?" the journalist asked, although the answer was already felt in his heart. "Exactly," the doctor nodded. "Suffering is not punishment. It is an awakening, an invitation to return to the light. Pain is the language by which the universe speaks to those who have forgotten their source. But many perceive this voice as an enemy instead of hearing guidance in it." The journalist felt that the recording was coming to an end, but there was one last question that would not let him rest. "What would you say to those who fear death?" Moody smiled. It was not an ordinary smile. It carried the calm of a person who had found the answers sought by millions. "Death does not exist," he said. "There is only a change of state. What seems like the end is actually a new beginning, and when the time comes, everyone will understand we are returning home." Several years passed. The recording of the interview was never officially published. It became a kind of legend among those interested in the topic of life after death. There were those who denied its existence. Others claimed to have seen fragments. But mostly the recording remained inaccessible to the general public. But one day, one of the cameramen who had worked on that shoot agreed to speak with journalists. We will not mention his name, for his own safety. After the camera was turned off, Dr. Moody said something else, he recounted. It was no longer for the recording. He addressed all of us in the room. I have remembered his words forever." "What exactly did he say?" the journalists asked. "He looked at us and said, 'Remember, the day will come when the truth will become evident. Many will be afraid then. But those who know that the soul is eternal will have nothing to fear.'" "That's all?" the journalists asked again. The cameraman shook his head. "No," he added. "Be prepared. When the world becomes darker, seek each other out. Light always recognizes light, and even if there is chaos around, those who remember the truth will be able to help others pass through the night into a new dawn." These words were passed from person to person. Some considered them a legend, others a warning. But those who studied Moody's work and researched near-death experiences knew the truth often sounds like a fairy tale to those who are not yet ready to accept it. Many years passed. The world indeed entered a period of trials. What the doctor had spoken about began to manifest in reality. Economic crises, wars, global upheavals. But at the same time, souls began to awaken. People began to seek the truth, support one another, and become guides for those still in darkness. Dr. Moody's words remained a beacon for all who seek the truth, for those who are not afraid to ask, who are ready to hear answers, even if they are frightening. Because even in the darkest night, there are those who carry the light. And if you are reading these lines, perhaps you are one of them. If this story made you reflect, support the video with a like and share your thoughts in the comments. And most importantly, remember, even in the darkest times, the light within us never fades.